Okay, this is going to be a simple walkthrough of how to make a basic mat, a single layer mat, and then a double layer mat, and take it into the Eclipse cut software. So the first thing you need to understand is that there are when we're making a mat, there are various layers. Layer 0 up here, we have to have layer 0. It represents the outside of our mat board. So right now we're on layer 0, and we're going to draw a rectangle, which is a special polyline, which describes the outside of our mat. So I'm going to click on this symbol here, which is rectangle. And down at the bottom in the command window, it says, hey, here's all the different options. I don't want to choose any of these fancy options, but it says specify the start corner. So I'm going to click there, and I'm going to type 0, 0. I'm going to hit enter. And now, like in our previous video, now we have a rubber band, but our rubber band is rectangular. So I need to figure out where the other corner, the opposite corner, is going to go. Well, I'm going to make it 8 by 10, so I'll say 8, 10, and then I'll hit enter. And now it drew an 8 by 10 box. Now I can use my mouse button to roll and scroll to relocate it. It keys off of the location of my cursor, so it rolls it closer to the cursor or farther away from the cursor. In the middle, obviously it's going to zoom down or zoom out. If I want it all to fit in the window, I can go over here to zoom, and I can hit zoom extents, and it fills the window. Well, maybe I want a little bit more room down here. I want to scale it down, so let's hit zoom to a factor. And then down in the factor box, we'll put 90% 0.9x. Now it zoomed it out 90%. This is still an 8 by 10 rectangle. We just moved our viewing position away from the rectangle so we could see more space around it. All right, now we're going to put a rectangle in the middle that represents our opening, a 5 by 7. So the first thing we need to do is we need to go to this icon up here, and we need to hit the layer manager, and we need to add a new layer. So new. Eclipse layers are layered by the numbers, not layer 1, but just the number 1. And typically I make the number 1 layer red. If I was going to make a second layer, I would hit 2, I would put the number 2 in, and I would make it a different color, so visually I could separate them when I'm working on them. And that will make me 2 layers. The active layer is the one with the arrow. If I want number 1 to be active, I can double click on it, and now the arrow shows up there. And up here in the layer manager window, you can see it's number 1. It's grayed out right now because we're working with it down here. If I want to get rid of a layer, I go to this, select the one I want to get rid of, and I delete it, and then it'll be gone. So now this is not grayed out, so I can use this to switch back and forth my active layer, what I'm drawing on, by just simply clicking on the different layer number. And you can see down here in the properties window, that's changing as well. And you always want this color to be by layer. So you want everything drawn on one layer the same color. So just leave it as by layer. And by layer means it's getting the color from what we set in the layer manager. From time to time, the software will automatically save. And this is a no-name file at the moment. It's keying off of this tab. If I want to save it, I'll click File and Save As. I'm going to click Save As the first time. And I'm going to give it a name, Test. And I want it to be under Files of Type. I want it to be an R14 ASCII drawing star DXF. Don't use one of these other DXF files, and don't use the DWG file extension up here. Always use R14 DXF, and the extension will be DXF. We'll hit save. Now that just saved our file, and it put the name on the tab. It also put it up here in the title bar, and the next time it auto saves, it will say that. So we can make the inside of our mat by using the offset command. And we could say, hey, look, down here, it says, okay, we're going into offset mode, and the default offset is 1. And here are the options. And specify a distance. If I wanted 1 inch, I would just hit enter and it would accept 1 inch, but I want 1.5 inches for my border, for my margins. Okay, so now it says specify the source entity. So I'm going to select this entity, and now it says down here specify side for destination. So do I want it to offset in or out or in? Well, I want it to go in, right, on my mat. So I'm going to select in here. And so there it made this item, this new rectangle. It also says now specify source entity. So I could do it again if I wanted to select again, but I don't. So I'll just hit the enter key, and now the command is done, and we're back to the colon. So if I want to measure something, we're going to need another toolbar for measuring. So let's add a toolbar. Let's go to toolbars. Let's go down here. I think it's called inquiry. There it is. And then click OK. So up here, it added this little tape measure. So if I click on this tape measure, distance, then it says specify the start point and specify the end point. Now down here it tells me that's 5 over and 7 up. So the X distance is 5 and the Y distance is 7. So that's a 5x7 opening and an 8x10 mat. All right, now this needs to be on layer, well, this entity doesn't have any direction right now. It's just a box. So we need to give it a direction for cutting. So we're designing from the front of the mat, and when the machine cuts, it flips it over and it goes the opposite direction. So I'm going to use the polyline tool, and I'm on layer 1 up here in the manager, and then I'm going to use the polyline tool, and I'm going to select the start point, and then I'm going to go to the end point, next point, and the next point, and the next point, and then the last point, and I'm still waiting for more commands, but this option down here says I have the ability to close it. So I'm going to type C for close and hit enter. Now that's ended the command. Now I have this red rectangle polyline sitting on top of the white one. I need to get rid of the white one. So I have to turn the layer that I'm drawing on off. So I can do that by clicking on this green button over here. And it warns me, hey, look, you're turning off the layer which is active, which if you draw something, you won't be able to see it. So pay attention. Okay. Now, I want to get rid of that, so I select it, and I select delete, and it's gone now. So now, I'll go back up here, and I'll turn layer 1 back on. So now, I've got layer 1 turned back on. So this is my mat. So let's save this. And because we already have a name on it and a type, we can just do save. But before we send this over to the cut software, is we need to clean the file. So if we type clean and hit enter, you see there's dimensions in here and some other stuff. We just hit delete all. And that deletes all the extraneous items that the cut software doesn't understand. And we hit close and then save it. File, save. Now that's ready to go. So now let's open the Eclipse cut software. So I'm going to go browse. I'm going to go find the cut software. I'm going to start it. Yes. Okay, this is a demo mode because I do not have a motion controller in this computer, and that's okay. And now I'm going to say File and Open DXF file, because that's what we've saved it as. And now I need to go find it. And so it's on desktop, and it's in new folder, and it's test mat and open. And there's my map. So it only shows me the inside opening, but it tells me that the mat size is 8 by 10, which is exactly what we made the white rectangle. And if I want to hit dry run, it will paint the screen in the order that it's going to cut it. If I want to step through, okay. So that's the whole thing with making a single layer map. Now, I can exit this. Now let's modify this and make it a 2-layer mat. Well, to make it a 2-layer mat, we need to add a layer. So let's put in a new layer. Let's put in layer 2. Let's hit blue, and let's hit OK. Now, let's offset 1/4 inch. Let's offset this 1/4 inch. Well, right now it says it's going to offset down in the command window. It says it's going to offset 1.5 inches. Well, we don't want that. We want 1/4 inch. So we'll put in 0.25 and we'll hit enter. Now it says select the entity. So I'll select this entity, select the direction. I'll select that direction. I don't want to do any more, so I'll press enter. Okay, now this needs to be on layer 2. So I'll click on this and I'll go over here and I'll select layer 2 and I'll hit the escape key. And now I have layer 0 is the outside of the mat, layer 1 is the top mat opening, and layer 2 is the bottom mat opening. I'll save this, file, save, and I'll send this to the cut software. So I'll start the cut software again. Demo mode. I'll say file, open DXF file. I'll go to new folder. I'll go to test mat. And now at the bottom of the cut software, I have more tabs. I have an all tab that shows both layers. And I have a top layer and I have a second layer. Okay. So that's how you do a mat using Draftsight all the way through into the cut software.